Welcome to the HFY Tales channel. Remember to like and subscribe if you like the story. Enjoy and take care.
The twin suns of the planet Alorn hung low in the sky, casting a golden hue over the sprawling market of Vishara. Stalls laden with vibrant produce, a kaleidoscope of colors and scents, overflowed into the main thoroughfare, where merchants shouted their wares in melodic tones. The air was thick with the tang of exotic spices and the sweet scent of flowering plants, igniting a sense of wonder in visitors from the stars. Among them was Elijah, an Earthborn researcher, who had dared to journey far from his blue planet on a mission to study the unique culture of the alien society. Elijah ran a hand through his tousled hair as he navigated through the bustling crowd, his heart racing at the prospect of exploring an entirely new world. Despite the excitement, an aching loneliness tugged at him. He had been on many missions, but there was a persistent craving for connection that all this adventure couldn't satisfy. In the distance, amidst the chaos of the market, a figure caught his eye. An alien female, resplendent in her unique attire. Her skin shimmered like amethyst under the twin suns, and intricate patterns glowed faintly on her skin. This was Abigail of the Jarathi, known for their striking beauty and complex societal norms. She moved gracefully between the stalls, her long silken hair flowing behind her as if in its own dance. For a fleeting moment, she glanced in his direction, her eyes deep pools of luminescent blue. Unaware of the chemistry brewing between them, Abigail felt an inexplicable pull toward Elijah. She had always been taught that according to her people's traditions, she had a duty to select a mate from among her own kind, someone strong and powerful, a warrior to defend her. But there was something confident yet humble about the human male's presence that intrigued her. It was then that Elijah felt the unmistakable spark of attraction course through him. Their eyes met, and in that brief moment, everything else faded away. The noise of the market, the bright colors, the swirling scents, it was all eclipsed by the intensity of that single gaze. "Is this your first time on Alorn?" A voice interrupted, pulling Elijah from his reverie. He turned to see a friendly alien vendor, his skin a warm shade of green. "Yes, it is," Elijah responded, still glancing at Abigail as she disappeared into the crowd. "It's incredible here, so vibrant. Most humans come to study us," the vendor said with a chuckle, "but very few open their hearts to what we truly are." Elijah turned his full attention to the vendor. "What do you mean?" The vendor smiled knowingly. "Your kind often seeks knowledge, but forgets the importance of connection. Remember, on Alorn, everything is tied to relationships between species, between mates." Elijah considered this, uncertainty gnawing at his mind. Would he ever find someone who truly understood him? The barriers of species seemed monumental, yet the pull he felt toward Abigail whispered of possibilities. Just as he was about to ask more, the ground shook beneath their feet, and a distant rumble echoed through the market. All heads turned ominously toward the horizon, where dark clouds began to gather, swirling dangerously. The chaotic market instantly transformed into a scene of urgency as people began to scatter. Amid the commotion, Elijah felt a sudden desire to find Abigail, a need to ensure she was safe. As the first bolts of lightning struck the ground, he dashed into the crowd toward where he last saw the alien female, not knowing that this would set in motion a bond that defied the very fabric of their worlds. Elijah dodged through the hastily scattering crowd, adrenaline surging through his veins. The once vibrant market had transformed into a frenzied space, with alien merchants shouting for their goods and the thrum of panic rippling through the throngs of people. His heart pounded not just from the chaos, but from the urgency of finding Abigail. As he pushed forward, the rumble of the storm grew louder. He caught glimpses of her amethyst skin flashing between the panic bodies. Just as he reached a cluster of stalls, he saw her standing still, a picture of calm amidst the storm. They locked eyes once more, and in that moment, a sense of relief washed over him. But before he could reach her, a gust of wind whipped through the market, sending debris flying and knocking Elijah off balance. "Get down!" he shouted instinctively, before realizing Abigail was already crouched low, her intense gaze scanning the area. "Elijah!" she called, her voice steady yet filled with an undercurrent of urgency. "We need to find shelter." With that, Abigail extended her hand toward him, and without a second thought, he took it. They dashed together through the chaos, a united front against the elements. Managing to navigate to a side alley, they finally found refuge in a small, unassuming structure, walls adorned with alien hieroglyphs that glowed faintly in the dim light. Inside, the air was still, but the tension was palpable. Elijah leaned against the wall, his heart racing not only from the chaotic environment but from the electric connection he felt with Abigail. She released his hand but lingered closer, their breaths mingling in the quiet atmosphere. "Thank you for coming after me," she said, looking up at him with a softness in her gaze that melted away his anxiety. "I didn't expect you to risk it." "Neither did I," he admitted, feeling self-conscious yet invigorated. I couldn't leave you there." Abigail tilted her head slightly, studying him as if weighing his words carefully. "Humans are strange. You put yourselves in danger for those you barely know." In that moment, their differences felt vast, yet Elijah understood her curiosity came from a place of vulnerability. He mirrored her gaze, offering a warm smile. "Sometimes, it's the ones we barely know that we feel the most connected to." The changing winds outside howled, but within the small chamber, an intimacy blossomed. Abigail's curiosity shifted into something deeper as her heart raced. No one had ever cared to protect her the way Elijah had, and it ignited a fire within her that she had long suppressed for the sake of her own traditions. However, she had rules to follow, rituals ingrained in her since childhood. "You do know that we cannot," she started, but Elijah interrupted with a gentle hand to her arm. "I'm not asking for anything. I just want to know you better," he said, his voice soft yet filled with determination. With a sudden gust, a window rattled, drawing their attention to the storm raging outside. Abigail felt a flicker of fear rise within her. "This storm is unlike anything I've seen. What if it gets worse?" "We'll deal with it together," Elijah replied, the warmth in his voice melting her concerns. His presence was grounding and reassuring, a stark contrast to the uncertainty raging around them. As the storm continued its onslaught, the two fell into a natural rhythm of conversation, sharing stories about their homes. Elijah spoke of Earth, the ocean's whispers, vast forests, and glowing cities that sparked under the night sky. Abigail shared the deeply rooted customs of her people, how their society revolved around harmony with nature, the importance of mating rituals, and a life of devotion to their community. The bond between them deepened as the storm raged outside. They realized they were both trapped in a space between worlds, longing for connection, and for the first time, they were not alone. As the winds howled, the energy in the air shifted. Elijah found himself leaning closer, captivated by Abigail's unique allure. "Have you ever felt a connection like this before?" he asked softly. Her answer hung in the air, full of possibility and longing. "No, I haven't, and I'm afraid of what it may mean," Abigail confessed, her voice tremulous yet resolute. Before she could ponder further, the storm grew fierce, shaking the very foundation of the building. Elijah instinctively reached for her again, drawing her close. The danger outside became a distant echo compared to the heat radiating between their bodies, amplifying the tension and the promise of something more. Just then, a powerful roar of wind shook the structure, rattling everything within. Abigail gasped, and Elijah instinctively wrapped his arms around her in a protective embrace. She melted into him, feeling something she had never dared to imagine, the thrill of closeness, of a bond that challenged her very nature. But as desire surged between them, the storm outside reminded them of the barriers that still loomed: society, tradition, expectations, all overshadowing the mystical connection they had just begun to uncover. The winds outside howled relentlessly, yet inside the dim structure, time felt suspended as Elijah and Abigail held each other tightly. Their breaths mingled, and the world around them faded into the background. The storm was just a distant memory now. For them, the greatest storm was the fierce connection building within, pushing them towards something monumental. Abigail, Elijah whispered, his heart pounding in rhythm with the tension between them. What are we doing? Abigail searched his eyes, trying to grasp the depth of her own feelings. I'm not sure. This is complicated for me. My people. She trailed off, glancing toward the dusty ground as if searching for answers lost in her culture's teachings. They might not understand, Elijah said softly, a touch of concern lacing his words. But this connection, what I feel for you, it's real. Her heart raced at his words. It's just, I was meant to choose a mate from among my own kind. There are laws, traditions. Traditions can change, Elijah interjected, taking her hands in his. What if you don't want to follow them? Isn't it time to choose for yourself? Abigail could feel her pulse quicken as his words sank in. The very foundation of her identity was being challenged, and yet the yearning within her screamed for freedom. If I choose you, it can lead to rejection from my people, hostility. She paused, wrestling with her conflicting emotions. Just then, a particularly fierce gust rattled the shutters, causing Abigail to jump. Elijah instinctively pulled her closer, their faces mere inches apart. The electricity in the air was palpable, igniting something primal within both of them. I can't lose you to fear, he murmured, his eyes locked onto hers. The world is large enough for both of us together. I want to be with you, no matter the risk. As if on cue, a deep rumble sounded from outside, shaking the structure once more. It felt as if the universe was pushing them to make a choice. Her breath quickened, and she tightened her grip around his arms, anchoring herself to him. Maybe there doesn't have to be a choice, Abigail whispered, her voice trembling with vulnerability. The moment hung suspended between them, a balance of fear and desire. With the storm outside raging in wild abandon, they shared an unspoken understanding, a dawning realization that they both needed this connection. In an instant, their lips met, igniting a fire that enveloped them. The kiss was hesitant at first, but soon desire took over. The warmth radiating between them surged, igniting an intense passion that drove away all doubt. It felt like the culmination of everything they had experienced together. Breaking the kiss, Abigail leaned her forehead against his, their breaths mingling. If I choose you, I will have to participate in the bonding ritual. Her voice wavered a touch. It's a ceremonial declaration of matehood, which binds us both publicly. Then we'll do it, Elijah said with unwavering conviction. Whatever it takes, I'll stand by you. But it's not just signing a bond. It's a merging of our essences, of our beings. You may not physically survive the experience, she warned, her eyes wide with a mixture of excitement and fear. That sounds intense, he chuckled softly, half joking to alleviate the tension. But isn't that what we humans do? We take risks for love. I'm in. Determined, Abigail grasped his hands tighter, drawing courage. Very well. The storms may rage, but I will claim you. She could see a flicker of admiration in his eyes that fueled her resolve against the constraints of her culture. They spent the next moments discussing what the ritual would entail, offering both understanding and excitement. With the wind continuing to thrash outside, they crafted their own understanding of the ceremony, a blend of Jarathi tradition and human emotion. Later, as the storm began to abate, they realized they had reached a decision, a pact forged in the fury of nature and their deepening desire. Together, they would step into the unknown, ready to face whatever followed. The winds began to calm, whispering soft lullabies as the last remnants of the storm faded. In that quiet moment, Elijah leaned in to kiss Abigail again, this time with fervor and certainty, preparing them both for the next daring step, the ritual that would bind their hearts and fates forever. After the tempest outside faded into a gentle hum, Elijah and Abigail emerged from their refuge, stepping into a world washed clean by the rain. The market, now quiet, was littered with odd remnants from the storm, yet the vibrancy of Alorn remained, a testament to resilience. They walked side by side, hearts pounding with anticipation and uncertainty, ready to confront the ritual that lay ahead. I have to prepare, Abigail said as they approached her home, a grand structure adorned with glowing symbols of her people, a stark contrast to Elijah's simplistic earth environment. A heavy dread settled in her stomach, mingling with exhilaration. "Are you sure you want to go through with this?" Elijah asked gently, concern lacing his voice. "It's a big step." "It's not just a step, it's a leap," Abigail whispered, turning to him. "But I want to take it. I want you to be my mate." In her eyes, he saw a determination hard-won through her struggles with duty and tradition. As dusk fell over Elorn, the two prepared for the impending ceremony. Abigail donned exquisite ceremonial garments, layers of iridescent fabric that shimmered like the night sky, cascading around her elegant figure. Beside her, Elijah dressed in his sturdy, practical attire, a reminder of his human background. The contrast between them was striking, yet it only deepened their connection. Remember, once the ritual starts, it may bring forth strong emotions. We will have to be ready for anything, Abigail advised, her voice steady despite the whirlwind of feelings inside. "Whatever happens, I trust you," Elijah replied, his hand finding hers. Their fingers intertwined as they proceeded to the communal space, the heart of her society, a vast amphitheater surrounded by ancient trees arbored with luminescent blossoms. Abigail felt a surge of anxiety as they stepped before the gathering of the Jorathi people. Alien faces turned toward them, expressions ranging from curiosity to skepticism. There were those who welcomed her choice, but others eyed Elijah warily. Their traditions weighed heavy in their eyes. "Welcome, Abigail of the Jorathi," began Elder Qatar, a towering figure clothed in robes that glimmered like the ocean's depths. "You arrived before us, accompanied by the one who claims you. It is our custom to witness your choice as you bind yourselves in matehood." Feeling the weight of tradition pressing down, Abigail took a deep breath. "I choose Elijah a human," she stated clearly, her voice ringing like a bell through the amphitheater. A murmur rippled through the crowd, echoing her declaration with scorn and surprise. Elder Qatar's gaze flickered between them, eyebrows raised. "A bold choice, one that defies the laws of our ancestors. Are both of you prepared to withstand the consequences?" Elijah squeezed Abigail's hand, courage surging through him. "I am ready, whatever it entails." The elder nodded solemnly, a tone of respect underlying his words. "Then prepare for the rite of mating, an intertwining of your essences. It is binding and irrevocable." As they stepped into the center of the amphitheater, the energy in the air crackled with both tension and electricity. Abigail felt the weight of her people's eyes upon her, their judgment pressing down like a storm cloud. But as she looked at Elijah, his unwavering support bolstered her courage. The elder began to chant in the ancient language of the Jorathi, invoking the sacred energies surrounding them. Distant glows illuminated the space, bathing them in otherworldly light. Abigail closed her eyes, focusing on the sensation of Elijah's presence beside her, grounding herself in their shared connection. "This rite will bond not just your hearts, but your very spirits," Elder Qatar intoned. As the chanting intensified, Abigail felt a warm pulse radiating through her body, drawing her closer to Elijah. In that moment, a wave of emotions washed over her, a mixture of love, fear, and hope intertwined into a tapestry of sensations. She could feel the other's skepticism, but chose to reject it. Instead, she focused on Elijah, their fingers laced together, drawing strength from their union. As the final words of the ritual were woven into the air, their surroundings blurred into a whirl of colors and sensations. She felt the merging of their essences, the boundaries between them beginning to dissolve. It felt exhilarating and overwhelming. A flood of Elijah's feelings, fears, and dreams swept into her consciousness. Suddenly, a piercing cry cut through the air, the sound of a dissenter among the crowd. A male alien surged forward, rage evident on his features. "This is an abomination. You dare to defile our customs with a human scum." Horrified gasps echoed around the amphitheater, and Abigail's heart raced with fear. But Elijah stood firm, defiance in his eyes. "This is love, just as valid and true as any bond." We will not be ashamed of our choice." Before the elder could respond, Abigail stepped forward, feeling a surge of fierce pride and determination. "We will fight for our bond. Love cannot be contained by tradition." The crowd murmured, some rallying to their side, while others shouted in protest. For a heartbeat, the conflict simmered, suspended in the balance between acceptance and rejection. Elijah turned to Abigail, their eyes locking in a tightly woven connection. "Together," he mouthed, and she nodded fiercely. With newfound resolve, they faced the assembly, embodying the hope that love could transcend barriers. In that moment, Abigail knew their journey into the unknown had just begun, filled with trials, acceptance, and the perilous waters of societal expectations. But as long as they stood together, facing the storm, she felt invincible. The tension in the amphitheater crackled like static electricity, the air thick with uncertainty. Abigail stood unyieldingly at Elijah's side, her heart racing but her resolve steady. All around them, the crowd shifted, some leaping to voice their disapproval, while others whispered in admiration. Elder Qatar raised a hand to silence the tumult. "Let us not forget the importance of choice," he asserted, his voice echoing across the gathered assembly. "While norms define us, it is love that binds us most profoundly." The energy shifted, the elder's authoritative tone prompting hesitation among the dissenters. They watched as he approached Abigail and Elijah, both warriors in a battle not just for their bond but for the creation of a new cultural narrative. "Abigail," he said somberly, "your choice, while not traditional, speaks to the evolving nature of our society." Abigail's breath caught. Would the elder accept their union? "If you choose to truly walk this path, know it may come with challenges and sacrifices," he continued. "Yet love could indeed forge bridges where there were once walls." "Then we will face those challenges together," Elijah replied, his voice steady. "No matter the odds." A murmur resonated through the crowd, a shifting tide of acceptance. Some Jorathi stepped forward, emboldened by their defiance. "If love knows no bounds, why should we?" one of them called, raising a fist in solidarity. With each word, the walls surrounding the amphitheater echoed with the power of revelation. Abigail felt a rush of gratitude. This could be a new beginning, not just for them, but for their people as well. After moments that felt like hours, Elder Qatar nodded slowly. "Then let it be known. Today we witness a union forged by choice, a bond to be celebrated." A swell of acceptance rippled through the crowd, and as the elder continued, the tension began to dissipate. "Elijah and Abigail, you are now bound in matehood, a union of two worlds." Emotions surged as cheers erupted, filling the amphitheater with sounds of joy and celebration. Abigail felt heat rise within her as Elijah pulled her into an embrace, their hearts beating in unison. A sense of triumph washed over them, an affirmation that love had prevailed against tradition. As the festivities began to unfold, colors exploding in the evening sky, Elijah whispered in her ear, "I'm proud of you for standing up for us." "And I'm proud of you for trusting in me," Abigail replied, her heart brimming with joy. "Together, we can create a future that honors both our worlds." As days turned to weeks, the bond between them flourished. They faced challenges together, educating those around them about the depths of their connection. In time, more members of the Jorathi began to recognize the beauty and diversity, and the embrace of interspecies bonds blossomed in their society. Elijah embraced the traditions of Abigail's people, learning their customs while introducing elements from his world. They created their own rituals that honored both histories, a blend of warmth from Earth and the mystique of Alorn. One evening, under a starlit sky, as the moons of Alorn shone in their celestial dance, Abigail turned to Elijah, her fingers entwined with his. "You have changed my world, and I promise to always be by your side." Elijah smiled, a sense of fulfillment washing through him. "And you have changed mine, Abigail. I'll forever cherish this love." As they stood together, looking out at the horizon, the vibrant lights of both their worlds intertwining, a promise hung between them, a commitment to face the unknown, a testament that no storm could shake the foundation they had built. With hearts intertwined, they step forward into their new life, knowing their love would illuminate the path ahead. A love that knew no bounds, a beacon of hope for two worlds poised to embrace a vibrant future together.